also my personal life. And as Sara was saying, I serve as the director of the Institute for Tribal Environmental Professionals, and I also oversee the Tribal Wellbeing for Seven Generations program with Karen Cazzetto and Ashley Grice and many other team members. So I still oversee that with them. But for the next year, I'll be the sole director of ITEP. So I'm really proud of it. Um, and I want to thank the Indigenous Climate Resilience Network for this invitation. I want to give a shout out to Ashley Grice, who cannot be here with us today. Um, but she's very much a big part of this report. I will be asking all of you to participate as well. So feel free to insert yourself in the chat box, ask questions. And thank you to everyone who's joining us here on the Zoom. But I understand it's also being broadcasted to the local college. So welcome and thank you. I hope you have lots of questions for me and you learned something today. So my clans are all honoring the natural environment and really describe who I am and oops. So I just want to say, the Tower and House people were meant to be leaders and supporters. The Reed people were meant to be, they say we're meant to be like basket weavers. Um, and then the Tuahe the water that flows together people were water people. So that really defined my life as a commercial river guide I did that for in my other life. And also as a huge water advocate for my people here in the Southwest. And then my many goats people, my father's clan, that they are that's where I used to herd sheep. I think that's where I got it from. So really describe so just thinking about the clans and why we it informs our life and our work. And we often talk about the natural environment as our non-human relatives, they're living entities that we engage with. We don't try to control. If you had attended the Good Fire chapter and also the water chapter webinars in the last few weeks, and I want to give a shout out to Dr. Kelsey Leonard. I saw her name come online, lead chapter author for the water chapter. So just talking about the language of dominance, and for indigenous people we don't do that. We're very inclusive, and a lot of it really does inform, right, our and is infused into our language, our words, our prayers, and our songs. And that extends to, again, our plant relatives that we use for health, our well-being, for food, for subsistence to keep us alive. But we also make sure we have a reciprocal relationship. And in turn, that is also informing, maintaining, empowering our culture, making sure that we listen to our elders and our young leaders and the next seven generations. And so I this is all infused into our work and um a lot of what, ITEP as a whole, but I'm here really talking about the Tribal Wellbeing for Seven Generations program. That's the one that I help co-lead. And we do it through many platforms. And I'll be talking about the STACC report, which is just one component of our work that we're really proud to have a lot of engagement, including Sara and Allison, who are co-authors, I think on both reports, or at least one of the reports. So I just want to show that up here. But I would love your participation. And then I think yeah, I can see the chat box. If everyone can take like a screenshot or go to the link that I put in the chat box. And I would love to hear and see what you all think about. I think you get 3 tries to type in one word that you think of when you read or hear indigenous or traditional knowledges. So I'll give you all a second to do that. And I think this is how I would do it. Yeah, there we go. And if you see that online, you will find that as you grow in your field, as you grow personally, um, and not just professionally, but personally, you will see a lot of similarities with your people, with your colleagues, and there's some beautiful items on here. And Sarah, can you give me a thumbs up or, virtual thumbs up if you can see the screen with all the words popping up?
Yep, it's looking good.
Cool. And I'll share this word cloud. It's one way, right? We engage with our audience and our classes. And there's some beautiful words that come up and I love that. It's like engagement, right? No, sorry, the language. That's one of the most used, like that's one you guys are all typing in a lot. Generational connections, history. I lo love, valid, yeah, humility. If you need a reminder or if you want to learn, just ask a question and then, with a word cloud and you can see them pop up. It really is inspiring. And this is something that's really near and dear to a lot of people, not just Indigenous people, but our allies and our colleagues who are there to help work together to move forward. So I really appreciate this. So I'll keep that up for a little bit, but I'll make sure to share this word cloud and have Sarah and Allison send it out. So, um, but thank you so much. That was a wonderful exercise because that really leads us into why we created and convened uh, I wouldn't say created, sorry. We convened the Status of Tribes and Climate Change report. And I'm here to talk about the second one. And I really wanted to put the report cover as a focal point because it was created by this young lady who's no longer 19, Kylie Wanati Rosebud Sue. And she's an artist and a knowledge holder, a future leader, or actually, she's a leader already. And she gave us permission to use her artwork for the cover. And so we're so grateful. And some of her other art also appears in the report. And this is something that we learned from the first one, where we had a beautiful picture. And I remember Gary Morishima letting us know that we should do better. I don't think he said it in those words, but he said it should really represent what the report was about, which literally is to uplift, elevate, celebrate the work of tribes, of indigenous peoples and their colleagues and allies across the nation. And so it really was that you were all the inspiration for this. It wasn't like ITEP said we should do this. I know we had a lot of conversations, and I want to bring up Mike Derglo Jr. from the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribe, and he's an inspiration for a lot of us. So and Anne Marie Chili, our former director, water warrior, and the current vice president here at NAU of Native American Initiatives. We had all been part of reports where we were, it's changing now, but we were just a couple sentences, a paragraph, or a page. And we realized that a standalone report was needed. Really, this is for everyone. It's for all of you in this virtual space. We created this for you. I keep saying we. When I say we, I don't mean ITEP. I mean like all the author team from the first and second one. And so this was really to make sure that Indigenous people came first and that it was a big report that came from your voices, your experiences, your efforts that were done and still being done. So we're really proud of this. And this photograph right here, is a screenshot done by Road Grayson, one of our young people who is an artist. And so I'm so proud of them for doing a lot of artwork within this report. So I wanted to show you, this is on our website too, just a timeline. If you've ever been part of a report or an article, they are time consuming. If you've written a paper for class, it's time consuming. And so the inspiration discussion started around 2016 and the plan was developed. And then the pandemic hit before we could put it into play because we wanted to meet in person and have like writing retreats. We envisioned that. But the pandemic hit us and it gave us the opportunity to focus on this report. And we have a steering committee for both of them. So it's not just, again, ITEP saying this and that, but rather like a really diverse group of people who informed this report, including the recruitment of the author team. And I remember it's a long haul, and I want to the first report I want to highlight Dara Marks Moreno. She was our first coordinator who really shepherded us, who coordinated the team and setting deadlines and sending reminders, all this stuff. And for the second report, it was our very own Bazil Panik, who you're all probably mostly familiar with. If you're not, you really should. So we recruited him for the second report. The first one was published in 2021, and you can see an image there, and I'll show a bigger one later. And then right after that, we started planning, and it took a while, but we finally released it the end of March. 2025 this year. So, and we're still, kind of recovering, so to speak. I just cannot thank all the folks that were involved before we start planning for the third one. We do plan on it. It will take time. The first report had so this one as a highlight. I want to give a shout out to Coral Avery and Molly Tinkersley, who led the creation of this with input from several people who volunteered to provide input. And in the middle is where you can see all the chapter titles, and the outside was what the hope was from, guidance from ancestors, hope for future generations, and then thinking about the impacts from climate change and the impacts from colonization. And we didn't want to try and make it regionally specific to one area, but to try to make it broad, and hence, all the graphics. So we're really, really grateful for these two young people who helped create this. Um, so the key messages in that particular version or volume was to respect and uphold tribal sovereignty, self-determination, integrate holistic responses in line with tribal values. And it's more in depth when you read the report, but that's something that was, I would say, vetted with the steering committee and then the authors, and then including Dr. Kyle White, who really pushed us in the first and second report to make this as comprehensive and reviewed as much as possible, to really speak from what we couldn't say in other reports or didn't have room for in other reports, national and global. And then, we did a lot of lessons learned from the second report, like making sure the artwork was the focal point. So we kind of, made a very simple title. And again, guided by a steering committee. We also did a call for input from the public, something we hadn't done in the first one because it was important for the community to have input. And I can't remember well, I know we didn't receive an overwhelming amount, but still, we put it out there. We gave the opportunity, and something we'll continue to do. And one thing we did too is put an open call for co-authorship. And this was very interesting. We received a lot of interest, and we vetted them. We not interviewed, but we talked to some of them, and we didn't accept everyone. There's only so much room, right? And a couple people did pull out and say, you know what, this is not the time for me to be part of this. This is not what I thought it was. And we all left on good terms. And so this is something that we're feeling out for the next one. And the one thing we wanted for this report was really to have an all Indigenous lead author team very important to us. And I still can't believe the caliber of people that our relatives that agreed to be the lead authors. And also the over 70 plus co-authors included young leaders, elders, artists, scholars, community members. And we did provide a stipend to those who requested it. And we're going to try and do even better next time to provide stipends beyond the borders of the US. So that's something that we're very interested in doing, but we don't know if it's possible yet. And so again, I want to emphasize it's not ITEP's report, it's your report. You're the ones that did it, that helped provide the inspiration for it. And behind the scenes is something that's really important to keep in mind. You need to have people that provide reminders again, that provide inspiration, and I just want to give a shout out to Bazil. He really did. I said, you got to push, you got to nudge us. We're very busy and we have still a lot of other things to do. And so he really pushed us. And I want to give a shout out to Karen Cazzetto, my amazing colleague who really looked at the budget and help keep us in line there as well. And Laureen Lewis and Melinda Yaiva, who are financial people here at NAU AdTep. And then our former colleague, Kelsey Morales, love her. She really helped us identify, communicate with Coral Avery and then the artwork that would be included in this. Like the cover. And then Ashley Grice, our assistant manager, too. So we were the team behind the scenes helping make it happen. Here's just a really quick overview of the chapters, excuse me. And these ch titles were created by the steering committee and the lead authors. We really left it up to them, and so next year we're hoping to have chapter 5, 6, and 7, led by Laura Jacobs, and an amazing team. We had to split that one into two chapters, and so just kind of thinking about that the thought process of it. So just to let you know, we kind of helped choose it together. It was a collective decision. And here is our amazing author team. Kyle White, Melinda Adams, and you can see under their titles and names is what chapters they were lead authors of. And so this is no small feat. I mean, Laura and Coral did a couple of chapters, but that does not mean they did more than others, but it's just an amazing amount of work. It was all different. So thank you again. For those, if you're in the room like Dr. Kelsey Leonard and others, thank you so much for being part of it. Really an amazing team, and we hope to continue this in the future. I want to mention the peer review process. Dr. Kyle White, in the first chapter volume, pushed us to consider this. And so we kept this extensive review process, and it's not easy getting reviewers, and sometimes they prefer Google Drive or Teams or OneDrive or Dropbox, depending on whether they work for a federal agency or they were a community member, just kind of thinking about that too. So it looks easy and clean on the screen, but it's not. So the first one had a review from the chapter authors, the steering committee, ITEP staff. The second one was a federal review. Third one, blind review. And then the internal review was like another review by the leads, steering committee, and ITEP staff as well. So again, the key messages for this volume, 3 of them, and they go more into depth on the website that I put in the chat box about understanding the deep relationships with the earth and the significance of the indigenous knowledge systems, and the inclusion of indigenous knowledge systems, right, is a big one. And chapter 1 talks a lot about that, and continue, and then also making sure that encouraging change, that Indigenous people can be included in all of these realms of academia, federal agencies, tribal agencies, communities, because we are the original stewards, the original caretakers, on a responsibility that was given to us five-fingered beings, bala ashlai tanitlingi, nahasan ba atahulya. As five-fingered beings, the humans, we were told that you are caretakers of Mother Earth. So I said that in the Navajo way. So that's something that we emphasized. It was all across the report. I'm almost done here, so I'm going to encourage you to read the narratives. The first and second both volumes have narratives, which are the words straight from the Indigenous representatives, or as in the first volume, there were some tribal organizations, and so it was straight from the communities and the tribal representatives, or the representatives that worked for the tribe. The first one's by Todd Mitchell, the second one's by Cherry, and it includes some amazing artwork, photographs that were given to us by the author team, given permission. So it's just a really amazing layout. This picture of Mother Earth and her kids in the corn, that was one of my favorites, and in the running for the report cover. So you might see it in the next report, who knows? But it was important for us to include art. Art is not just something that, is a pretty picture or a pretty photograph or a creation, but really speaks to the storytelling that comes across in the artwork. And so that was something really important to us that we wanted to include. And I want to give a shout out to Coral Avery, Kels Morales, and others who spearheaded that, and then all the artists that gave us permission to provide their work. And the layout, I can't remember what they call them. There's a name for a designer who designer of layouts. We couldn't find someone in time. So our own Ashley Grice actually did the layout, and we tried to get a Native American font, by I think a Navajo or an Apache Paiute person. We didn't get to them in time, so we wanted to include, be really even more inclusive, even in the font and in the layout too. So this is what it looks like, and it's a big feat. So thank you to Ashley Grice for the layout. It's just beautiful, and there's a lot of color blocking of important, you know, quotes from people. So just kind of flipping through them. Again, we really wanted the voices of our relatives to come across. And we could not have done this without, our non-human relatives, who I think is the reason why I do the work, and maybe why you do the work, is we want to take care of her using our traditional knowledges and our Western education, non-Indigenous education, kind of putting those two together. So, but we couldn't have done it without our leadership, our relatives, our elders, and our young people, because we can't do it without you. We can't do this alone. And so, again, we are always in such gratitude for everyone involved in this. To save paper, we only have digital copies. We did provide a limited printed copies that went out to the author team who wanted a copy. And they are also we sent a copy to every tribal college and university here in what is now known as the US. So that is they're in the tribal colleges and libraries, and we have one here at Northern Arizona University's Klein Library as well. We're trying to create as much access as possible. And so digital copy is available in different formats, high resolution, low resolution. And so you can take I put the website in the chat box, but here's a QR code as well as the website, and you can email address.